there's huge value alone just to talk to you and the other chamber members. I feel like that pays your $275 because you've given me great ideas and support. And I feel every time I go to a business after hours, you just get a little closer to those people who care about the community and want to grow.
Yeah, I think one of the big opportunities for businesses is to kind of look at where there are holes in our services and other types of businesses. So I think it's really great to try to see, is there a business that already offers this service or not?
It feels like you have the whole place to yourself Monday through Thursday. Friday hits and now you're kind of stuck in traffic. And
the traffic.
Yeah,
traffic.
Mammoth traffic.
Mammoth traffic.
At the forest stoplights.
If a smaller business is just getting started and wants to kind of feel it out, like they are welcome to come to anyone is. You don't have to be a business. You can just be an interested community member, which we do have sometimes. People that come to our programming that just want to plug in with the community. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Even like a punch card.
We'll put it on the list. There's a long idea list, so we'll just throw it on there.
Yeah, I like that. Welcome to Real Mammoth, where we talk about real stories and real estate here in Mammoth Lakes, California. Today, I'm with Brianna Goico, who is the president of the Mammoth Lakes Chamber of Commerce. And congratulations, by the way. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I always start off the podcast with, how did you first hear of Mammoth? How did you come? And why do you stay?
Interesting. Yeah. So I lived in LA for several years before I moved up here. So I had heard of Mammoth. I was not a skier. I honestly wouldn't even say I was that big of an outdoor recreation person. But I knew what Mammoth was because I lived in LA and kind of everyone in my circle at least knew of Mammoth. But I'd never been here before. And I was invited up on a familiarization tour because I was an event planner in Los Angeles. And FAM tours are basically an opportunity for a location or a city or town to kind of like market and advertise to a group of event planners in hopes that they bring business to the area. So I was invited up on a trip that was sponsored by the Westin here, as well as the Mammoth Lakes Chamber of Commerce, interestingly enough. And I came up on that trip. I almost didn't come because I was saving for grad school. I was just about to head to grad school in the next few months. And so I didn't want to waste any money. I was like, no, I'm saving. I really need to focus on that. And everything is usually covered with those trips. So my friend who was inviting me was like, everything's covered. Just come. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know how to ski, but sure, I'll go and hang out. So that was my first trip to Mammoth. It was April 2016. And I did end up skiing that trip very poorly. It probably took me like 45 minutes to get down schoolyard over at Canyon. I had no idea what I was doing. But after that trip, I came up to Mammoth, oh my gosh, like every month or twice a month for the next year. And it just really left an impression on me. Actually, my first night ever in Mammoth, I was staying at the Westin, and I chose the grad school that I wanted to go to within the next few months. And I had this whole path of I wanted to work in the Foreign Service in the State Department for the federal government, and that was kind of my career path I really wanted. And yeah, it was interesting after coming here. It just really changed my worldview and my values. And I wanted this life of no family, no kids, no husband, devoted to my career. I wanted to live in a compound in the Middle East and work on Middle East U.S. relations. And so Mammoth is a little bit different than that. But yeah, that was my first time. That was my first exposure to Mammoth, and it just blew my mind. The area, and I guess also the lifestyle that comes with being in a small town like this. So I visited for the next year and came up, and then I moved up here in 2017, Memorial Day 2017. So
oh wow, yeah. So it's almost that anniversary date.
Yes, yep, yeah. It's been about that anniversary date. Yeah. So, and why I stay, I think it's really important for anybody that does look at moving here just to understand it's what it's like to live here. There are challenges everywhere. You know, that's kind of how I feel, that there's challenges in the city, there's challenges here of anywhere that people choose to live. And so, you know, it's just a trade-off of some different things that are challenging sometimes about living here in the mountains and living in a remote place. But I love the small community, and I really enjoy that I see friends and people I work with and different businesses everywhere I go in town, and I really like that. Mm-hmm. And I think there is also a level of accountability being in such a small area, because we often run into people we know, and you know, I drive a little nicer here. You know, I'm just a little nicer in general here because we all know each other and we're such a small community. And you I guess you could get lost here, you know, if you wanted to. But for me, I was really intentional about integrating myself into the community, and I chose actually my first job here was working at the Westin, which is funny enough, because like my only jobs in Mammoth have been kind of the reason I first came to Mammoth. And so I've been really intentional about taking jobs and positions that keep me in the community. And yes, I could probably make more money with a business from outside the area, you know, working remote. And I know that's an option for some people. But for me, I wanted to know people here. And I think by working in the community and working with the community, that's how I get to know people. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and you said something fascinating. So was it really like that one trip here? It was like the precipice that just defined a new path in your life?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, and it's a bigger story than that. I did actually go to grad school. So I did move to Washington, D.C. So I first came here in April. That August, I moved to D.C. I had lived there before. I didn't like it before. I was like, I'm older. I'm different. It'll be good. I hated it again. I'm like, this is not me. And but I still went because I'm like, I have been working towards this. The process to get into a grad school like that is years, and it's, you know, it's long. And so I'd worked so hard, and I'd wanted it for 10 years since I was 17 years old. I wanted to go to George Washington. I got in. I wanted to be in this program. So I was like, I have to go. And I was there like, I think 2 or 3 weeks, and I withdrew because I'm like, this is not... Wow. It's not the lifestyle I want that goes with that career, which I knew was I think many of our careers that we choose, there's a lifestyle that accompanies that. And I knew what that was for what I was looking at doing. And I was just like, I don't want that. You know, being here and seeing how people lived and how happy people were. I wouldn't say people working in the foreign service in international relations are the happiest, right? Or most positive. So, but just being here and getting to know locals in the community. Yeah. I mean, it really just like changed my entire outlook.
What were those few attributes about a small town that really drew you in?
Mm-hmm. You know, like I mentioned, I like that we all know each other. And I think because of that, there's a level of like kind of looking out for each other, and also like really valuing our town, the people, our natural landscape, our environment. Like I felt like those are values that I was living in West Hollywood before I moved here. Little different.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like I never thought about the city of West Hollywood. I never thought about my environment and in a way that I do here. You know, I'm just a lot more cognizant of my footprint here, you know, and yeah, I just really enjoy it. It's just more relaxed, you know, it's relaxed here. Yeah. Even in the type of career that I'm in, which I would say is, you know, not as traditional as maybe some jobs in Mammoth, you know, working with businesses and working in the business community. Even that I would say is just more relaxed than the places that I worked in LA. And I did work in DC at some point when I first started working. And obviously working in Mammoth Lakes is extremely different than working in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. Very different. And so, yeah, I just really liked it here. It was funny because like one of my big concerns about being here is that I would never get to, you know, I've always had an interest in international relations and politics and government. And I always felt like I wouldn't be able to apply or work in those passions and those interests by being in Mammoth. You know, I kind of always thought that that's not what Mammoth is, right? Like I can't do what I like to do here. But it's interesting, like working at the chamber and working with the business community, we are very much working and involved in local politics and what's going on locally in the town and the county. And, you know, really learning how to navigate that. I feel like I do get to apply some of my background, and I worked for bipartisan organizations, and I really get to apply that here. Working in a bipartisan environment is like straddling, you know, the left and the right and anything in between and all the issues. And I really feel like working at the chamber and representing the business community is doing that.
Totally. And yeah, it sounds like you're like, oh yeah, you're overqualified for this job. And so you're bringing like this mindset that you were super driven, you were going to make a huge change. And so now do you think you're bringing some of that to this small town of Mammoth Lakes?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, nobody likes to talk about it, but you know, COVID was obviously a rough time for everyone. I joined the chamber during COVID. I thought I was joining at the end of COVID, right? Like June 2020. I'm like, this is wrapping up. Yeah. Wrong, right? And so working at the chamber during that time was really challenging. Being anywhere during that time was really challenging. Everything was partisan. Everything was divisive. It was a really challenging time, I would say. And I really kind of saw how those skills I had in learning how to navigate two very different viewpoints and learning how to come to some, you know, middle road and kind of toe that line. Like I did really feel like my background and what I did before I came here applied to that time and still applies today. That was just like the first example and not something I expected, honestly, working at the chamber. I have a background in events, and the chamber hosts a lot of events. And so that's kind of where I saw that my background would apply. And I didn't really think about some of those other components that kind of came to light over the last 4 years.
Wow. And so you joined the chamber as an employee in 2020. And then in just 4 quick years, you're now at the top of the ranks.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. We have a board that we answer to, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I joined as the membership and marketing manager back in 2020. And then I think 2 years ago, I was promoted to assistant director and now president and CEO. So yeah, it's really exciting. I've learned a lot about the industry. My predecessor, our executive director, Ken Brangle, was in the industry for oh my gosh, like almost 50 years. And so really learning under him about like how chambers function, how they serve the community has been really, really helpful. And I feel very prepared as I step into this, next phase.
Tell us, what does a chamber even do? And is the Mammoth Chamber any different than ones around the state?
Yeah, so a chamber of commerce basically works to support business and advocate for business. So, you know, we are not the compliance piece with, you know, the town. You have to file and get your business. We're not, you know, collecting taxes and things like that. But we are kind of working to support businesses with, locally here, we really focus on, customer service training, support for human resources, just basically anything a business needs to kind of, accounting, different things like that. Like we can give referrals. We also have a lot of programs to help strengthen businesses, and kind of like with strengthening business, it's also like, you know, hopefully strengthening the economy, which, you know, in turn provides like a better, community, a better life for our locals. So that's kind of our priority. So in general, chambers support business. Here locally, obviously we do that. We advocate for business. That's like at the town level. That's when different, legislation is proposed. We do sign on to some bills that are kind of statewide, but in general, we definitely focus on our local community. And chambers, kind of everywhere, their focus is like their individual town, city, whatever their municipality is. And so that's basically what we do.
Okay. And so, yeah, you guys advocate for businesses. And what do you ever get pushback on that?
Yeah. When you are taking a position on something, not everyone is going to agree on that, right? And so, we really try to look at what's best for our business community. One area that we are navigating, everyone here is navigating, is housing. Obviously, we just came out of our short-term rental moratorium within the last few months. And, some businesses are like, we need this in place because I don't have employees because they have no place to live. Other members, other viewpoints are it's stifling business, so we're really, our board and all of our decisions are made kind of with at the board. It's not me, it's not the president, CEO, it's not the executive director making that decision for everyone. Most things, tend to go through our board. So when it comes to that, it's really talking to our board, talking to our members to try to figure out. And sometimes it involves not taking a position because things are so split. So it's interesting to navigate. So advocating for business, helping new businesses get started, helping businesses grow that need assistance with that.
What are some of the chamber's biggest issues or threats to in Mammoth? Like, for example, is it kind of how you speak to the community? Are you doing more? Is your only audience the business community, or is it kind of like the community as a whole, or are you just hyper-focused on these businesses?
Right. So we are, a Chamber of Commerce is a membership organization. So in general, our first priority of representation is to our members. So we have about 300 members that are part of the Chamber. But I do feel that when our board is looking at our programs, looking at making a decision, of course, it's what our members would prefer. But I think it is also looking at the business community at broad, and then also how it would affect our community in general, not just businesses. And when I say businesses, also nonprofit organizations are members of the Chamber. So it's also like community organizations and community partners. Of course, we always think about how programs that we have affect, the town, the county. So biggest threat though.
Or even just challenges that, because like I know, it seemed like Ken had so much experience and it was probably everything except for COVID. He was just like, oh yeah, this is what you do. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And so now you're going to be taking that over.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you worried about anything?
Yeah. In terms of some of our biggest challenges, some things that I have, just in talking to businesses and kind of seeing is, just making sure that the town of Mammoth Lakes is business friendly and business development friendly. And I think there's a lot of components to that. And, we just want to make sure that when a business is looking at getting started, that they really understand the steps that need to be taken and the criteria that needs to be met to open their business, whether it's brick and mortar or whether, it's run out of their own, sole proprietor, run out of their own house or, home. So, I think that's something that I really want to focus on and our board wants to focus on is really helping new businesses get started, existing businesses expand, and kind of making sure that it's really clear at the town and county level what they need to do to meet certain requirements. So I think that's something that we can definitely work on. Another one, obviously, housing is a community issue. And it's interesting that, even commercial property is a challenge sometimes here. So, we're going to be meeting with our board. We're going to be surveying our members, doing a kind of like member-wide community survey that we haven't done since 2018. So we'll be doing that probably in the next few months here in Mammoth with our members and with the community to sort of identify like what are the biggest challenges. Obviously, everything comes back to housing. Yeah. So that will, of course, come up. But, so we want to hear from our members what they're facing, and then we'll be meeting with our board to do some strategic planning to help sort of guide our programs, build priorities and make sure that our programs and what we're doing kind of fit under that. Because it's really easy as a community organization to get we should be doing this, and and it's like, does this really fit our mission? Does it fit with our priorities? And so I think this will be really helpful for myself and our board to have some really clear direction on how we want to move forward.
Brianna, what are the most valuable benefits as a business owner that the chamber can bring to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I really feel that I mentioned earlier, our customer service training is really valuable to a lot of our businesses. We do it at the beginning of every winter, and it's just an opportunity just to kind of like, we bring in a really great speaker, and they provide kind of like a workshop on how to offer great customer service. Tourism is our bread and butter here, so customer service needs to be something that we are excellent at. So that's one thing that the chamber can offer. We really offer an opportunity for businesses to connect. I think that, yes, we do see each other all the time, but it's great to be able to connect in a professional kind of business focused environment. So we provide that opportunity through a lot of our different programs. So connecting and kind of like convening people. And then something else that we work on is everyone does, but we meet regularly with town officials. And so, we really communicate what we're hearing from our members. And we are basically, I would say, the voice of the broader business community at the town level. We go to town council, we report on what's going on with the chamber, what's going on with our businesses. And so just sort of having that voice as a business, having that kind of broader voice that we represent 300 businesses at the town level, is something that I think is really useful to businesses. So, providing that connection between businesses, advocating for them, speaking for them at the town level, because not every business has time to do that kind of stuff, right? To go to, you do it, right? You go sit at town council and it's a commitment. So, those I think are like our biggest benefits to an actual member of the chamber. We also do a business awards every year where we just kind of honor and celebrate top performers in different areas. And then, like I mentioned, our programs are just a really great way to connect and hopefully offer some professional development.
For a business that's big and successful and they have a track record, it's a no-brainer for them to be a member. But as for someone who maybe, has very slim margins and, they're a sole proprietor, what are the biggest benefits for those people, and should they join the chamber? Yeah,
for them, they're focused on business growth, right? So they really need to develop those close relationships. I think about, maybe a business that they do, paddleboarding tours or lessons, right? Like that business really needs to build connections with local hotels, lodging, right? They need to get in front of businesses that work with a lot of tourists. We have a lodging association for that. And so often, a business such as that, where maybe it is a sole proprietor that's, leading, paddleboarding lessons or, leading something like that, that's how they can connect. So, we basically kind of like provide the infrastructure for a very small business to be able to connect with these larger businesses and build those relationships. So that is really important to them. I agree. Sometimes, our dues currently start at $275 for businesses. So I know $275 a year for businesses. So I know that can be a big investment for a small new business. And, we do have different payment plans set up, that kind of thing. So we try to work with businesses on that. And then also, you don't necessarily have to be a member of the chamber to come to some of our programming. Obviously, there are always benefits, discounts, that kind of thing for our members. We want to kind of honor, that investment that our members are making in us. But if a smaller business is just getting started and wants to kind of feel it out, like they are welcome to come to anyone is. You don't have to be a business. You can just be an interested community member, which we do have sometimes, people that come to our programming that just want to plug in with the community. So for a smaller one, it's getting connected with those big, the bigger businesses.
Cool. And I just want to say, like, there's huge value alone just to talk to you and the other chamber members. Like, I feel like that pays like your $275 because you've given me great ideas and support. And I feel every time I go to a business after hours, you just get a little closer to those people who care about the community and want to grow.
Yeah.
And if you're a person who wants to grow their business or even just grow yourself, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Do you feel the same?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do feel like, you know, those mixers that we have, some of those offer that opportunity. You know, I do think the biggest thing that I see with some people or businesses that do join the chamber that may be struggling to see the value, you know, it is kind of what you put into it. And I get not everyone has time to make everything. I understand that I do make everything. Obviously I have to. It is challenging.
That's hard, yeah.
So it is challenging for even for me, and this is my job. So, you know, I do think, and I try to tell people when they're looking at, just try to make like one thing a month. Don't get crazy and try to make everything, but just prioritize, whether it's women in business and you want to focus more on your like personal development and connecting with other women in the community, whether it's our business after hours, which is just kind of an open mixer for you to be able to network and chat, you know, or it's a power lunch, which tends to be more educational about business. So, you know, I just kind of, it's best if someone can try to make at least one thing. We do also have our newsletter that comes out every week, every Monday. And I've been really intentional since joining the chamber team about trying to keep that an easy read and brief.
Yeah.
So, you know, even just scanning that, taking a couple minutes to scan that at the beginning of the week, just to understand what's going on in the broader community, what's going on within the chamber, and what other businesses are up to. That's a really good resource that you don't have to be a member of the chamber. Anybody can subscribe to our newsletter and get that.
Cool. Yeah. And I do find a lot of value in that weekly newsletter. And I do a weekly newsletter myself. And as a business owner, it's a great thing to do just for your business, but I feel like a lot of people find value in a weekly newsletter in general. I want to ask, so kind of, we hear a lot in Mammoth, like, I'm just kind of going to play a little devil's advocate, because we see a lot of people here who are like, well, we don't need any more development. Like, why do we need all this growth? What do you say to those arguments?
Yeah, you know, so to that, I would say there are plenty of people on the other side who are pushing for growth. And, you know, our economy, our town budget, that all is related to tourism, right? Like, that's kind of why pretty much everybody in town is here, is because of that. So, you know, I really see that if we want to sustain our economy, if we want different amenities in our community, like the CRC, you know, like community amenities, like that comes from our economy being able to support those types of projects. And our economy is tourism, you know, and so that development, that growth, that more restaurants, more hotels, you know, for me, and I get the balance of, we want this to be a small town. We're still a small town. And I'm sure that there's some people who might have been here for 20, 30 years. And obviously it's very different than it was then, you know, but people love this place. And it's frustrating to me sometimes when there is that kind of narrative or thought that, like, we don't want more people either like living here or coming here to visit, which is challenging because, like, how many of us were actually born in Mammoth, right? You know, and like, you know, we came here because we love this place and it's beautiful, and this is the lifestyle that we choose and that we want to live. And I think that we should be welcoming to that audience for those that want to come here and live here, and you know, work here, and even for guests and visitors. Like, we really do need them in order to support our budget, which I've gotten to know a lot more, and I'm sure you have too, by visiting these town council meetings. Like, that money comes from TOT, TBID, right? It comes from tourism. And so that growth and development, it's like all connected, right? Like, that feeds into our economy, which means a better life for locals, more amenities for us, you know, that kind of thing. Hopefully, you know, we look at the parcel, like things like that, it does. I know that it's hard, especially the parcel, and especially housing. It's a, you know, double-edged sword that we're dealing with these challenges because of tourism, but then tourism is going to help fund to help, hopefully provide housing and find solutions to that problem. So, it's complicated for sure.
It is, and there's no easy answer or solution. And I've spoken to Grace about this on multiple occasions, and there is like this tension you get when you live here, or even if you're just here for a couple months. It feels like you have the whole place to yourself, Monday through Thursday. Friday hits, and now you're kind of stuck in traffic. And
traffic.
Yeah,
traffic.
Mammoth traffic at the 4 stoplights. And you feel almost territorial.
Yes.
And in some ways it's valid, because if people are trashing your home, you feel,
of course,
defensive. Totally understandable. But there is this kind of like, I'm just gonna say tension in the air, and it can be, and people are just over people being in their space. I think we all kind of feel that as locals, but some people maybe kind of cope with it better. It's all mental, of course. Do you ever feel that way? And when you do feel that way, how do you kind of get around it?
Absolutely. Of course I feel that way. I wish I didn't, right? And it's like, especially coming from West Hollywood, from a city, when I get frustrated this is terrible, but I got pulled over for not doing a complete stop at the stop sign at Forest Trail in Maine. Ridiculous, right? And this is like, well, it doesn't matter when it was. Anyway, I got stopped because I didn't come to a complete stop. And the officer was like, why didn't you stop? And I'm like, this is during the holiday rush. And I was like, I just really didn't want to wait 5 minutes to turn left. How ridiculous is that? Especially for me coming from a city, like how ridiculous to be like, I didn't want to wait 5 minutes. So yes, of course, I feel that frustration sometimes, during the holidays when town feels overrun, feels at capacity. Of course, I get frustrated. And then I remember I have a job. My family has income. Because of these people, because of tourism, because of the visitors, of course I get frustrated when people stop in the middle of the street to put their chain, like, of course I get frustrated about that. But I quickly remind myself that, I am able to support myself. My family is able to support ourselves and have income because of guests here, because of tourism, because of these people I get frustrated with sometimes, so I really try to remember that. And then, I try to appreciate the times when it's slow and I'm turning onto Maine and there's no one really in either direction. I really try to be like, this is nice that we have this for a couple of weeks. It's very fortunate. I know that time is getting smaller and smaller. I know it's different than it was 10, 20 years ago. So I just try to appreciate those times that we do have that. But when we are at capacity, it's also great because we're making money. People are making money. People are able to afford things. People can pay their rent, which is expensive here, right? Because they are able to work when we're full. So I really try to look at it like that and not let that frustration linger too long.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I feel like we're kind of all tourists because, we'll go on vacation too, and we'll probably stop at the middle of the road at some point. And so if we can offer a little empathy to those people, it just makes the experience better. And I feel like when you're visiting a place, right, whether it's Hawaii or Italy or Mammoth Lakes, California, you're going to want people to be nice to you.
Yeah.
And it does make the visit better. Like, even going out to a restaurant, the service you get from your waiter can make the meal better. It just tastes better because you feel like you're treated right.
Yeah.
But if you get a waiter who, treats you like you're at a Bennigan's, it just doesn't taste the same.
Right.
That's just my experience.
Or that, and I get that sometimes, we live here, so we know certain things, and we can definitely get frustrated when people don't know how to navigate our environment. They don't lock the bear containers correctly.
Exactly.
They're putting on their chains in the wrong place. They're driving really fast and braking quickly on ice. Things that they leave food in their car, right? Things that we just know how to do because we live here. And so, I think if we want to see those behaviors decrease, it's us being patient, empathizing, and educating people on how they can, explore and be in town in the best way. So, getting angry and yelling at someone, that's, they might learn, right, not to do that again, but that's not, the nicest way, and not the way that, I think it's also not the way that we as locals tend to act with other locals. And I feel like sometimes, I try to think like, I treat locals a certain way. I should treat tourists the same way. We really should. And that tends to be a little bit different. We have like more respect for the locals than we do for the visitor. And I think, kind of just trying to apply that across the board would, maybe make things a little bit different.
Yeah, because I do think we need to work with the second homeowners or visitors with all these complicated issues, whether that's housing or business problems. But I wanted to touch on this too. A lot of people who come here, they're like, oh, maybe the service lacks. There's a lot of holes in the business communities where it's like, oh, like, it'd be great to have a really good contractor here so I can get my door fixed. And someone would return my call, just as an example. What are some of the biggest kind of opportunities in business that you see here, and maybe some of the biggest complaints that you see as well?
Yeah, I think one of a big opportunities for businesses is to kind of look at where there are, I guess, holes in our services and other types of businesses. So I think it's really great to try to see, is there a business that already offers this service or not? And kind of looking at it from there. And another thing for businesses, and I talk about this a lot when I'm talking to new businesses, is making sure that that you can sustain your business with just local, with like the local base, right? So making sure that it's, and, some businesses, yes, they are more geared towards tourism, but, as we have seen from COVID, tourism can change. So kind of just making sure that you're building your local business space as well as, looking at our visitor and tourism, because we do have shoulder season still, right? And being able to maintain your business during that time and be able to meet, payroll and your expenses is important. And then, biggest challenges, like I mentioned, we're about to survey our businesses, so we'll see what comes out of that. But, just from what I hear from meeting with members, labor workforce, biggest issue is finding employees, and then obviously those employees having a place to live, which is a big reason why we have been working a lot more with the local high school and our youth and young people, and really trying to educate them and prepare them to enter the workforce, because those are people that already live here. They already have housing. So, we've had to get creative with our programming, because we used to have this big job fair, and then it's like, great, I have a job. Where do I live? And that is a challenging question to answer here. Yeah. Luckily, and I know that it's frustrating living here, but luckily Mammoth really is kind of at the forefront, kind of at the top of providing housing to our community. Kind of, if you look at other mountain towns and how people live, a lot of them don't live in the town, right? They do live 45 minutes away. And I think it's great that our town is really trying to create a situation where that isn't what happens to our community. I do know that some people are looking to Bishop, looking to communities outside of Mammoth. But I think it's really amazing that our town does have a project like the Parcel, and they are really looking at providing housing in town. So it's challenging, it's frustrating. The need is still there, but I do feel like our town, Eastern Sierra Community Housing, the mountain, individual businesses are doing what they can to help their employees and help the housing crisis or challenge that we're in.
So you touch on something that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. You said Mammoth is actually doing better than most other resort towns in terms of housing.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like maybe Tahoe and Steamboat, like those places?
A lot of like Colorado-based resorts,
mm-hmm.
right? Like a lot of people don't live right there in town.
Mm-hmm.
Affordability, right?
Yeah.
Like that is an issue. Tahoe is actually doing really well. Tahoe, Truckee, that area, they are doing really well with their housing. I would say most communities do not have a large housing program like the parcel that
right.
we do have here. So, it's tedious, it's government, it's not going quickly.
Expensive. Yeah.
It's expensive, it's connected to the state budget, which we're dealing with right now, right? But there are efforts being made. We're not just talking about it. And hopefully, the town is looking at some other efforts to be able to help housing, help renters. So we'll kind of see where some of those projects go. But, it's on people's radar, and it's not going to move quickly. It's not going to be tomorrow, unfortunately. But it is being worked on, and for the Chamber for businesses, I mean, housing, it touches everything in our community, right? It touches every single industry. And so it is being addressed. It is being worked on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a long process, and there's no silver bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you live when you first moved here?
Yeah. So I was fortunate that, like I said, I came up here for a year, like every other weekend for a year. So I actually knew people when I moved here. So I was able to find housing through a friend. And so my friend owned a house, and then I rented a room from her when I first moved here. So that was my first kind of moving here experience. And that was in 2017 that I was looking. And I had, I think, 3 different places that I was looking at. So I was fortunate that I knew people. And so, but month to month basis, I think that's kind of the way most people should probably do it when they first move here, because it's a different environment, and who knows if you're going to really like it.
Yeah. Where's the nearest Target?
Yes.
I know. That's funny. I also moved here in 2017. I found that interesting. Yeah, and that's what you kind of got to do when you're in these small towns. Like, you got to ask around.
Yep.
You can't just look online.
Mm-mm.
You have to look in the newspapers. You got to put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will come. And then and for me, what I found too, with our business is I'm trying to do things that I'm already doing that's going to make us money, right? And I feel like that's a huge thing for a lot of people. And sometimes it's not even that. Maybe it's not even add on something to your business. Sometimes it's just do something better, right? I love how we just interviewed Jeremy, and he said that they offered something that was kind of unique to Mammoth. No one wanted to do delivery skis, but they did. And I feel like that's such a simple thing, but obviously the simple ideas that work. What are some of the businesses in town that you see kind of thriving? Maybe if they're doing something different or doing something better. Do you see anything like that?
Yeah. I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier is they have a strong local business base. I think that is really useful for businesses to support, and kind of they are able to make it through those slow times, like in May, and so, I think that when businesses have that, they're able to keep that business kind of going sort of year round. Other businesses, they are, they're communicating it's Mammoth. We deal with labor issues. Obviously it's really quiet in town on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So, it's part of our culture here that businesses are closed, 2 days a week, something like that. So just really communicate, the businesses that are really clear at communicating their open and closed hours, it's on their website, it's on Google, it's on Yelp. So it's really easy for locals and visitors to just people in general to figure out, are they open or not? So I think that is a huge thing that can be challenging to do sometimes, but I think for the businesses that I see are able to kind of keep up that business level. They're really communicating their open, close, their hours. Of course, we deal with weather here, so sometimes those have to be posted, but really communicating that. And then businesses that really focus on their team and their staff and their people. And this is obviously for a larger, but even not for a larger business, even a business of only 2 people, if you are a good leader, you really value the people that work for you. I feel like those people then in turn have like a stake in the business. Those employees value the business and want to see it succeed. And so, the businesses that really invest in their team and the people that they work with, I feel like that's kind of businesses that are succeeding. And we know the businesses, right, where we go in and we see the same people, and you can tell if a vibe is like people want to be here or people don't want to be here. Like you can tell pretty quickly, right? And so, just creating an environment where your team has that vibe of like, we want to be here, we want to chat with you. That makes the customer want to come back. That makes the employee want to stay. Good for employee retention. So, it really just does come back to the relationships that you're creating in your workplace or with the people that you work with. Even if you're a smaller proprietor, having a good reputation in town. We're small, right? Like we know everything that's going on with everyone. It's pretty quickly. So, you want to be the person that's known as someone that's good to work with, even if you're a sole proprietor or you're a large business with 20, 30 employees, you want to be known as like, we're cool people to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot of businesses out there where you just need like the owner. We're a small town, like you said, the owner, or I guess like a really great manager, if they care this much, but obviously the owner is going to care the most, where you need them to do the dirty work, right? You need to see, as an employee, like you need to see your boss, like do the stuff that no one else wants to do. And then maybe you'll feel a little better about doing that. And and just like the community, it's like, how do you make someone feel stoked to come to work? Like, no one's ever going to care as much about your business as you do.
Right.
But there are some good people out there who want to stick around. I love your point where it's like, how do you cater to locals? Because the locals will bring you through those shoulder seasons where maybe you don't have to close during October. And I want to ask you that question, but first, there should be like a locals meal everywhere, right?
Like a locals discount?
So not so much a discount.
Here's the problem. Like a lot of businesses offer that, or I've heard of businesses that either offer it or want to. The problem is then people who aren't exactly local start claiming that.
Yeah,
and
they know.
I know. So it's really, I know some businesses that are just like, we only do it if we recognize people. We don't just take people's word for it, because that term local is actually really interesting. I do feel like a second homeowner can consider themselves a local.
They pay taxes.
They pay taxes, right? Like they do pay taxes. And I have interacted with second homeowners who, I've asked like, are you a local? And they're like, yeah, we have a place there. We're there a couple times a year. And I'm like, okay, they think they're a local. So that's just a really interesting term that I think us that live here year round, which may be a better way to say it, do live there year round, see it differently than maybe other people. So
right. That's true. Yeah. And sometimes I almost feel like guilty saying it. Oh, is there a locals discount? It's like 10%. Doesn't even make that much of a difference. But
it is. Yeah.
It's a nice gesture.
Yes.
I just think it'd be cool if there was like a local, like, oh, there's a secret menu item that only locals know. But
okay, that's kind of cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
In some communities, there has been like a local card where it looks like a credit card and it's just for locals. So that's something that actually my predecessor just left me with, like a sample of one he did in another community. So maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Even like a punch card.
We'll put it on the list. There's a long idea list, so we'll just throw it on there.
Yeah, I like that. And what do you say to like those businesses that do close for like 2 months? I get it. There's a bottom line. But on the other side of things, there's employees who also go 2 months or a month without a paycheck.
And it's up to the discretion of every business, and they have to do what's best for their business. So, we'll start with that every business has to make the decision that's best for them. I would say that also there are quite a few employees that actually like that break and are okay, maybe not. And I think that in general, locals know, if you're applying for it, that this business is closed, a few months, not months, usually not multiple months, but a few weeks. And I do think that's growing smaller. I think it used to be, we're closed for 2 months, and now it's like, we're closed for 2 weeks, right? And I think also employees do actually really appreciate that time to just have off and to kind of breathe. So, that's what I hear from businesses, because sometimes it is like, oh, don't you want to stay open? And sometimes it's, actually, no, the employees do want a break.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And it's always like on a Wednesday or something when like I'm really craving noodly. And then like we pull up and, oh yeah, it's Wednesday, they're closed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I just kind of know the hours of the places, or know the closure dates, right? Whenever I'm doing a lunch on a Tuesday or Wednesday. It's a little bit more challenging, to meet someone for lunch here at that time. And I get it, businesses have to meet their bottom line and do what's best for their business. So we really try to support that. But that's kind of one of the things that we sort of have on the Restaurant Association's agenda, since we're talking about restaurants, is to kind of figure out those closure dates and hopefully create a situation where things are a bit staggered, because sometimes it's like every breakfast place except for one is closed in town today, so that one is going to get hit pretty hard. So, those are the types of things that we're looking at maybe working on to just kind of help provide, that whatever the service, whatever the, the cuisine is to the community, that, it's not every single place that offers this is closed today. So, those are one of the things that we're, kind of talking to our restaurant association and our community about looking at.
That's really cool. I like that idea of like working together and being like, okay, these are our hours and these are the days that we're open, and maybe even like, being able to stagger a few. So no one, like you said, is not overrun. That's really cool. So just closing up now, it's almost been an hour. What are some things that you want to say? And I wanted to ask you this a while ago, but when you first joined the chamber and now as a new head of the chamber, basically, what are some things that you're excited about in the future, and some things that maybe you saw missing early on in the chamber? Yeah.
So, I'm just really excited to serve our community. I really think that's what the chamber is. We're a growing business and building community. That's kind of our focus. And so I'm really excited to see that. I'm personally excited for us to, which is not the most exciting or sexiest topic, but, just for us to create a really clear, sort of like a business packet for businesses so they know how to navigate the process here in our town when opening a business. And just, working with our community partners to let them know like what the business community is facing, what they're dealing with. I think we all know anecdotally, but for us, serving our members and really understanding the needs. And, I'm excited to really kind of focus our programs on like our, key priorities, our key goals, the things that we want to focus on the most. So, I plan to live in this community for a long time. I want to raise my family here. And so, for me, really, having businesses be well-run, well-staffed, strong, making good money, contributing to the economy of our town. To me, like, I very much see how that builds the community, offers more services, has, even just has, like we were talking about, diverse businesses in town, right? Being able to access certain things that maybe we go out of town for. I think by strengthening the community, those types of services and the things that we want are more available here. And so, I'm really excited to kind of see how businesses evolve the next few years. Obviously, we've got some big developments coming in. The town is obviously looking at doing some the mountain, which is awesome. And so, that's kind of how I see things as we move forward. And yeah, I'm really excited for the future. And, I don't know if I necessarily saw holes. But, for me, I've been I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so I have had a kind of just a list of things that I would like us to work on that's been running for a while, in hopeful preparation to me stepping into this role. And so it's going to be really exciting to kind of go through these with my board and prioritize things and look at how we can grow certain programs. A program at the Chamber that I'm super passionate about is our Women in Business program. I really enjoy that one. You don't have to be a woman to attend, but that tends to be kind of where our content is geared. But I really feel like that program has been great to really connect younger individuals in the community that are maybe trying to figure out what they want to do, what they want to be, doing in the community for work, for volunteer, whatever, and then having kind of our more seasoned individuals that have been in the community for a while, and to be able to have them connect. And, it was interesting. I did a program a few years ago, I guess at this point, about generational differences. And something that came out of that was that it's not just young people having an older mentor. It's also someone older having a young mentor, because maybe youth know more about technology and podcasts and, social media, things like that. So, it's really cool that I think we can all learn from each other, and, use that to grow ourselves as individuals and to grow our community.
And I just want to say, we're also stoked. I'm personally stoked that you're heading the chamber. You're just so nice and approachable. And, it's just it's the progressive chamber now. I feel like we needed that, because there's so many boards right now, including the board of realtors, where it's the people who you'd expect to be in those roles. And a lot of time there are volunteer roles, so you need to have that time.
Yes.
And it's time consuming. But if we want to make a change, you got to be involved.
Yeah. And for me, I really think about if we want to represent the community, and I think about the chamber and the businesses that exist in Mammoth. One of my main priorities in our board is that our membership, our Chamber of Commerce, looks like the people that own businesses here, which, I think it has shifted since I've, not that it's credited to me, but since I've been at the chamber, I have seen that kind of shift and grow in different ways. And I hope as we move forward that there are more people involved in the community from different industries, from different backgrounds, ages, race, all the things, just so we look like Mammoth Lakes. And so that's something that I have really prioritized. I've thought about that when I hire people onto my team, to our team, the chamber team, what those people bring to the table, what they represent. And so, I really want to expand that to our membership. And things are changing. The types of people in leadership hopefully are going to look and feel different than they have in the past. And I think that's great to just offer more representation to people that maybe haven't had a seat at the table for a while.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. I'm super excited for the direction that the Chamber of Commerce is heading to. And honestly, the Chamber is a great resource. Join them, or just join one of their free events, and you will be surprised. And you will meet people, and you will get a connection, and it will help your business. And Brianna, just want to say thank you so much for all that you do, and for being here.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.